Good morning. Happy Saturday. I am a couple of minutes late. I'm sorry about that. I was up last night. Some nights you sleep and some nights you don't. And you know what? Your body will do what it needs to do, and there's no need to really worry about it. So good morning. So we've got our goals. We know to take massive action. We know to have sensory acuity so we can decide whether or not we're getting closer to our goals or we're further away. And then we know that if we're not getting closer to our goal, we're going to change our approach. Good morning, Valerie. It's great to see you. And we know that the way to speed up that process is by mirroring. So now, a lot of people have done comments as I've been talking about this, about the law of attraction. And the law of attraction, the way that I think you should look at that is whatever you focus on, you get. But, good morning, Lawanda. But, you know, the book, The Secret, I've mentioned before that I'm actually not a fan of the book, The Secret, because I think, and this is my reading, and maybe my reading is wrong. Good morning, Terry. But to me, the book, The Secret, says that if you just sit there and focus on what you want, that the universe will give it to you. And that's the furthest thing from the truth. And maybe that's just my interpretation of the book, The Secret. But you can't just know what you want and then desire it. You have to go get it. You have to put in the effort in order to make all of that happen. And there's, you know, the first book that was ever written on all of this stuff was Think and Grow Rich. And Think and Grow Rich went through all of the steps in order to accomplish any goal. Now, Think and Grow Rich was, you know, really directed towards money and wealth. But it was really, it works for everything. And there's two steps in Think and Grow Rich that nobody ever talks about anymore. Or at least when I listen to all of these guys, I don't really hear. Once you got your goals, you're taking massive action, you're paying attention to your outcome as to whether or not you're getting closer. There's two things that you have to do in order to make sure that all of this works out. Number one is your goals have to dovetail. And what I mean by that is they have to complement each other. You know, for every goal, there's an effort that is required. And that's the second thing that I don't think gets talked about enough and was talked about in Think and Grow Rich. And I think we've kind of lost. And that is, for anything that you want to accomplish, there's a cost. You know, if you want to live in a house, there's a cost. You have to buy it. If you want to invest in the stock market, there's a cost. You have to purchase the stocks. If you want to accomplish any goal, there's a cost. There's a cost that you have to make. There's a cost in time. There's a cost in discipline. There's a cost in that you will have to give other things up. So your goals have to dovetail, meaning they have to support each other. And so, like, let's say that you say, I want to be worth $10 million by the time I'm 35. But you're also married and you have a child, and you say, but I want to be the greatest parent ever. Okay, well, those things might conflict a little bit. I mean, if you want to make a certain amount of money, there's a certain amount of time that is going to be required in order to do that. And that might not be supported by the goal of being the greatest parent. Now, it might be. It depends on what your rules and your beliefs are. But you need to think about those things, because a lot of times goals can pull us in different directions. You can say, I want to do this, but I also want to do this. And your beliefs about those things make it so that you self-sabotage, so that you take 2 steps forward and then you take 2 steps back. And that's something that you really have to pay attention to. You want to be able to look at your goals and say, this supports this, supports this, supports this. It needs to be, well, if you want to have a certain amount of wealth, then you know that there's a certain amount of effort to do that. So then a certain level of health is necessary. Morning, Bill. And that health is going to be a requirement in order to do all those things, and they stack. Does that make sense? So if you say, I want to be a great parent, then the great parent can be supported by the great health. They all have to dovetail. And the cost factor that you have to pay a price. You have to sacrifice something. The thing that you got to remember about that is the cost for that has to be paid first. If you want the goal, you have to pay the price, and then the goal will follow. I think that's something that doesn't get talked about at all anymore. And I think that the law of attraction has kind of blurred that. At least it did for me. If it doesn't for you, then great, then perfect. Then the law of attraction is exactly what you need. But to me, the book, The Secret, and that type of stuff, it doesn't talk about the effort that is required, the price that you have to pay for that goal. So for each of your goals that I hope that you've done, I hope you've taken the time to actually do this. You're taking massive action. You're looking to see whether or not you're getting closer. You're looking for somebody to mirror. Take a look at all of your goals as a whole, and they should support each other. One should support the other, that should support the other, that should support the other. If I do this, then I will get this, then I will get this, and then I will get this. And by the way, start with your health first. Your health and yourself, you should always start with first, and then you can go take care of everybody else. Always start with yourself, always start with your health. So once you look at all that, then think, okay, am I willing to pay the price that is necessary in order to accomplish each of these goals? In order to have a certain level of health, there's going to be required a certain level of discipline. In order to have a certain level of financial freedom, there's going to be required a certain amount of time and a certain amount of discipline. By the way, every one of these is going to require a certain amount of discipline. In order to be a great parent, that's going to require a certain amount of focus, a certain amount of dedication, a certain amount of energy, a certain amount of effort. Okay? Am I willing to pay the price for all of these things in order to get the goal that I want? And, as I said, think of it as an investment. If you could have, would you have bought Apple stock back in the 1980s or the 1990s? Of course. At the time, it might have been all the money that you had. If all the money that you had was $10,000 and you could put it in Apple stock, looking back, you would go, absolutely, no brainer. But at the time, you might think to yourself, boy, that's a big cost. So you've got to look at the outcome, because that's going to make the cost seem easy. How much do I want where I'm going? Remember, focus on your outcome. Focus on your result. Remember the airplane going to Hawaii. It's not focused on the cost. It knows that it has to put in a certain amount of fuel and have a certain amount of effort. It's focused on where it wants to go. And when you focus on that outcome, you always want to focus on why. Why is it that I want this goal? Because here's really kind of the bottom line. If you have a big enough why, then the rest doesn't matter. Then the rest will happen. Have a big enough why, and your energy will be there. Your ability to be okay with the sacrifice will be there. Your ability to find a way to accomplish the goal will be there. The why you want to do something is everything. So, like I talked about before, approach avoidance, we get caught up in the how. We set a goal, then we immediately start thinking about, how am I going to accomplish this goal? Don't worry about the how that you want to accomplish this goal. Worry about the why. You get a big enough why, and then everything else is going to fall into place. So focus on where you want to go. Focus on your outcome. Don't drive down the road in the rearview mirror. And focus on why. Why is it that I want this? And you get a big enough why, and the rest of it's going to happen. Remember, I talked about the example of the castle. There's a castle, and it's guarded by everybody. Good morning, Ashley. Guarded by all these guards and ninjas and poisonous snakes and everything else in the world. And I said, if you were in front of that castle and there was a big pile of money, and they told you if you could get into the castle, you can have the money, would you do it? And some people might say that, oh yeah, I would do it until they got to the castle. But once they got to the castle, they wouldn't do it. Thanks about my hat. Yeah, this is my daughter gave me this. But then again, you're in front of that castle, and there's ninjas and poisonous everything, and the worst situation that you can think of. And then they tell you that your child is in that castle, and if you don't get in, then your child's going to die. Well, you're now going to find a way. You have no idea how, but you're going to find a way because you got a big enough why. So look at your goals. For each of them, write a paragraph or 2 or 3 or 7 on why you're going to accomplish this goal, and make it an absolute must. Why it is absolutely a must that this goal has to be accomplished and has to be accomplished now. Write a paragraph for each one. That why is going to take care of having everything dovetail for you, and that why is going to take care of making sure that you're willing to pay that price. You get a big enough why, there is no price. It becomes effortless. So have a great Saturday, everybody. Happy Easter for those of you that celebrate Easter. And I'll be here tomorrow morning, and we're going to talk about more stuff. Tomorrow morning, we're going to talk about a morning process in order to start focusing on all of this. That's a great Sunday thing to start to do. Have a great day. Thanks so much for watching.